we do a better job at helping young people permanently exit homelessness and feel socially and economically included in society? That was the question we set out to answer in the Transitioning Youth Out of Homelessness study. We provided 24 young people who had experienced homelessness with rent subsidies for 2 years. Half also received a mentor. We wanted to see if the young people who received rent subsidies and mentorship experienced more social and economic inclusion compared to the group who only got rent subsidies. As we followed these young people, we began to see two pathways in their journeys out of homelessness. At the beginning of the study, we saw all the young people, to varying degrees, doing what we called circling, living in the legacy of their past. The future seemed a bit unclear, kind of like looking through a foggy window. A big part of this circling appeared to be associated with the inequitable or unfair and often traumatizing conditions in which they were raised and continue to exist. Some of the young people seemed to be stuck circling, trapped in day-to-day survival, like they had no sense of purpose or control over their future. When we looked a bit closer at those experiences, we saw that they tended to be characterized by very limited social connections, often just one significant relationship. And if they lost that, they would feel very alone. Also, they were housed, but that house did not feel like a home. But some of the young people seemed to gain clarity and break free from the circling. When we look more closely at those experiences, we saw that they were characterized by high social capital, meaning they had relationships that helped boost them forward when life got tough. These relationships were found in places like school, faith communities, family, and employment. And it was here that they met informal mentors outside our study who encouraged them on their journey. Experiences of sustained clarity and forward momentum were also seen more often in young people with higher identity capital, meaning they had strong internal resources like having a sense of purpose and control, self-efficacy, and self-esteem. Finally, we saw that these young people felt at home, not just housed. Interestingly, being assigned a formal study mentor did not seem to influence these journeys out of homelessness as much as we had anticipated. Although it is important to keep in mind that the COVID-19 pandemic hit less than a year into this study and made it challenging for our mentors and mentees to connect. The other interesting thing we learned about mentorship was that it appeared to work better for young people with higher identity capital. In other words, it seemed easier for a mentor to connect with and provide advice to their mentee if the mentee had a good sense of where they wanted to go in life. To make our study findings easier to explain, I have described two distinct pathways out of homelessness. But we saw the journey out of homelessness as being much more complex and precarious than that. While some young people were clearly on a distinct pathway, many were traveling in an in-between space, sort of straddling both experiences. For example, we saw young people who seemed to be doing well, but then something went wrong, like they lost their work-related social connections, and we saw them at high risk of going down a different path. Our study participants taught us that the pathway out of homelessness is challenging, precarious, and somewhat unclear at times. But we also learned that by providing a home, not just a house, facilitating external social capital, and fostering internal identity capital, young people exiting homelessness have a better chance of breaking free from the circling, remaining out of homelessness, and on the path to social and economic inclusion.